You were born to be a sprinter, right?
He's done it!
How do you have so much self-belief?
It didn't happen overnight.
The Hugo Boss fashion show in Milan, you obviously walked it. It was the wildest show I've ever been to. How did that come about?
And my agent's like, Hugo Boss has offered for you to walk in their fashion show in Milan. What? I was bullied through middle school. My quick religious story. I actually grew up in a cult.
No way. You've collaborated with Snoop Dogg. You have a YouTube channel which you regularly post on. You were on Jimmy Fallon. You're definitely provocative in your opinions on social media. You've pointed at the camera as you're crossing the finish line. Yeah. So how has the literal fastest man in the world got asthma?
It was like my worst year, and now in 2024, I'm going into my best year. And to do something that somebody else hasn't done, you have to get uncomfortable. And you have to do the unseen, the unheard of.
Are you faster than Usain Bolt? I think a great place to start. The Hugo Boss fashion show in Milan last year.
Yeah.
You obviously walked it. How did that come about?
It was literally one of those situations where I had just finished my last track meet of the year for 2023. We were in Eugene, Oregon for the Prefontaine Diamond League. And my agent's like, hey, I didn't want to tell you about this till after the race, but Hugo Boss has, offered for you to walk in the fashion show.
Yeah.
In their fashion show in Milan. What? Like, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't got nothing to do. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
And it was as easy as that?
Yeah, this time it was. So they have had like a history of doing things with athletes before. Okay. So when I, showed up, there's a German athlete, female athlete, who actually is sponsored by Hugo Boss.
Okay.
And she runs, in a Hugo Boss uniform and all that. So she was there. And she has like 1 million+ followers. She's probably the most I'm trying to find how do I describe it?
Popular?
She, without having the time to represent the greatest, she has the most followers.
Okay.
She has millions of followers, and that's very rare for track and field athletes if you aren't like an Olympic champion or a world champion.
I was going to say, you're close, though.
I'm close. I'm working hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get real followers. But, yeah, so, and then, there were boxers back there.
Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
Gigi Hadid.
Exactly. Like I'm back there. I'm just like, oh wow, Paralympians, Olympians. I'm just like, and quite a few track athletes. I was just like, yo, like they really cleaned up in the sports department. So that was kind of a cool cross, and they even explained how they want to do more in the athletic space, just helping athletes in general. So I thought that was really cool.
So when you walked out on the runway, was that the first? Because it was like, for people who don't know, it was the wildest show I've ever been to.
Okay, I'm glad it was wild to you, because hearing them direct us through it, it was like, okay, I get the concept, but I'm not going to lie, this is a little out there.
It was so strange. So like it was meant to be like ultra futuristic.
Yeah.
In one of the, we were all sat around, and then there was boxes that you had to walk between. And there was people in those boxes just doing really crazy stuff. There was some guy who was doing yoga in one of the boxes. But what's so weird is I was going for a fit-in the day before.
Okay.
And I just saw this guy. So I started speaking to him. I was like, oh, who are you? What are you doing? Because I like speaking to everyone. I like introducing myself. I just want to get to know everyone. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you work for Hugo Boss? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a meditation coach. I was like, oh, that's sick. He must be meditating for all the models and everything for tomorrow. And then the next day I walk into this room and I see this bald fella in a box, doing headstands, doing squats, doing all this crazy stuff. Yeah. And then there was people just lying down for 4 hours straight. There was people having a conversation between themselves, not acknowledging anyone outside. Yeah. It was just bonkers.
Then they had an office area too. It was like a futuristic office area.
Yeah, it was crazy. So when you walked out, was that the first time you saw it all, or had you been briefed on it?
No, we came in about 2 hours before, and we walked. We of course did our walk through the whole thing, and then they described the idea behind it. And yeah, we were looking at the office and the yoga guy and the people with the headsets on that was connected to computers and all that other stuff. I was just like, this is really cool, but at the same time, the music and the ambiance, I was just like, ooh, this is very Edge Runner type vibe. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, yo, this is cool but weird at the same time. I think it was the way that the director was explaining it. Mm-hmm. I think he obviously English wasn't his first language. Yeah. So it was a little hard to get the concept at first, but once we started looking around, it's just like, okay, I get what's going on.
So what is the feeling in comparison to walking a runway and then getting ready to run a 100-meter race?
Yeah. So that actually wasn't my first runway walk. I actually did one back in 2018 with Y3.
Cool.
Because Y3 is, a subsidiary of Adidas.
Yeah.
And I was doing it with Tori Bowie, Olympic silver medalist, world championship in 2017. She actually passed away last year, unfortunately. But we were very close because we trained together. And when we were getting ready to go out, she was so nervous. But she had done more walks and fashion shoots than I had. And I'm like, what are you nervous for? You're going to make me nervous. She's like, I know, I always get nervous for this. I was like, it's just walking. You know how to walk, right? I mean, you run in front of hundreds of thousands of people. You can walk, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I can walk. So once you kind of get to the idea of it's just walking and just follow the person in front of you, it's pretty easy. I think the hardest part about this one was there were so many twists and turns that you would cross paths with somebody and it'd be like, oh, don't follow that one, follow this one. And that was the scariest, I think, part of that specific shoot. Other than that, it's a lot of waiting in the green rooms. Yeah. It's just like you're there 3 to 4 hours before, and where you think it would be like everything's on time, everything's on schedule, it's not as organized as you would think. And that's why so many shows are so late sometimes. Like you go to a Gucci or Louis Vuitton show and it's like, yeah, we're going to start at 7 p.m. It doesn't start till 9. It's like, gosh, like what are they doing back there?
Just on your phone for 2 hours.
Truly.
Where does your love for fashion come from?
It's actually a funny story because growing up, I didn't care for fashion. I was definitely in dad jeans and wearing whatever random collared shirt I could find. I didn't. All I cared about was running. But when I turned professional and, again, 19, my brother and me lived together. I was 19, he was 18. We didn't have much to do.
Yeah.
All the people in our training group were 23 and up. So it was just us. And it's like, we can't go to the club and we can't go to bars and what do we do? I mean, it's like, well, let's go to the mall. So we just start going to the mall every so often. And, there was like 2 malls. There was like Florida Mall and Millennium Mall. And you go to Florida Mall, it's like, oh, these are nice stores. You go to Millennium Mall, and it's like broken into 2 halves. And one is the everyday stores, the H&M's, the Men's Express, and Macy's, Guess. And then the other side was the Dior, the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci, the Saint Laurent. And
you went straight to that side?
No, I mean, like, it took us like 3 attempts to get over there.
Yeah, because it's intimidating, right?
Yeah, it was very intimidating. And then we walked into a store, and I remember going up, and I'm like, what does a casual black tee cost? $200? Touching that. I would never pay that much for a shirt. Well, here I am 8 years later with a way more expensive t-shirt.
I was going to say, that one costs a lot more than $200.
Yeah, way more. Eventually, I started making more money, and I was like, oh, I guess, I can handle it now. But eventually, as like an artist myself, I just found it to be an expression of self.
Yeah. And
the more ways I can express myself, the more excited I get.
Yeah, I see you as very similar to like the Lewis Hamilton of track and sport, because he is like the style icon of F1. All the others obviously dress very, very boring, but he is very, very cool, and he's getting picked up a lot of press recently, and he's getting recognized a lot for it.
Yeah.
And like I see that from you in track and sport, and that's why I was really intrigued into this question. It's like, is it actually a love for fashion, or is it more of like a brand and marketing move to get more attention on you?
It's a love for fashion, and then I turned it into a brand and marketing move. I would do this regardless. When I pick out outfits, it's, me and my girlfriend, she'll be watching me for about like 2 hours, changing into 5 different outfits, because I'm like, no, this isn't the one. Oh, this doesn't go with this. This isn't representing how I feel. I'm going to change clothes and outfits regardless of what's going on. Now, if I can find a way to boost the marketing platform of not only me, but my sport, I'm going to try and do that, because I want, we only run for so long. And then at the end of the race, you hear us, well, I think that was a good run. And, thank God for everything that's going on. And, that was a great, I can't wait for the next one. It's like, what did you learn about me in those, that very breathy 9 seconds, maybe 20 seconds of dialogue, you know? But you can learn so much more about somebody and how they dress and their personality and how they like to be seen by others by the way they you know, clothe themselves. And that's what, you know, I kind of love about it.
I think it even comes down to, because I've tried it a lot recently as well, because like once you start changing the way you dress, you start to feel different, you feel more confident, you're feeling yourself, you want to start changing different things. So like I've done it as well, and I notice you do it a lot. You change your hairstyle a lot.
Yep.
You paint your nails.
Yep.
You got a lot of jewelry.
Yep.
I think it's amazing. I think you touched on it before where you were like, it's an expression. So like, because like you're always in your kit when you're running, when you're doing interviews, how do you express yourself when you're doing the sport?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, but at the same time, I like a challenge. Me and my braider, very close, and I've gone through like quite a few braiders just because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if our creative paths will mix. Some people are just there to do the job. Some people are there because they want to push the boundaries. And those are the people I like to work with. So even like with this hairstyle, you know, I drew this out, gave it to her, and then for an hour before we started, we're going through how would the process look, where do we start, where do we end, you know, what do we add to it. You know, this year I started adding pearls into my hair simply for the fact that I saw ASAP do it like at the end of last year, and I was like, let me start getting really more creative. Like I can do more, and I could keep pushing. So we started adding beads, hair, sew-ins, you know, really started pushing the boundary of how far can we really go. And those are all things that I can do on the track that aren't related to sponsorship or corporations and copyrights and stuff like that.
There's a thing in the UK, I don't know whether you're aware of it being in the US, but it's this thing called tall poppy syndrome. Do you know what it is?
I feel like I've heard of it.
Okay, so
I might need an explanation.
Yeah, that's fine. So effectively, the UK, because it's a very small place, it happens even more so in like smaller towns. That's why you get a lot of people moving to bigger cities like Manchester, Birmingham, London. So effectively, poppies all grow at the same level. And then once one grows higher, the farmers cut them down. So effectively, it's called tall poppy syndrome because in the UK, when someone starts to like move away from the crowd, like grow a little bit further than everyone else, other people try to cut them down. When you were kind of chasing your dreams and becoming an Olympian, changing the way you look, did you ever feel that was happening to you?
So, no, I actually haven't heard of that specific example, but I do know references. I mean, we just have different sayings in the U.S. About it, but yes, it does feel like that a lot of the time because it's so easy for people to stay within the comfort levels. And I feel what I try to do is things outside of comfort. Me in my sport, you have to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I relate that to everything I do. And when it comes to whether it's fashion, interviews, podcasts, like I don't want to be stuck inside of track. You know, I want to do things outside of track because track is not my whole life. And I want everybody to see not just the joy I have when I run, but when I do other things. And that's why I like to do podcasts. I like to do interviews. I love to practice my craft. I love to dabble in music, DJing, jewelry, anything I can find a little bit of an interest in. It's like, okay, how deep can I get into that rabbit hole and say, you know, let's bring this over and use it in a different way.
What's the process of turning pro as like an athlete? Because I can only imagine it from like friends who've turned pro in football, which is obviously very much high paying from the work itself, whereas you guys have to go down a slightly different route in terms of sponsors. So how do you navigate that of being such a young age going pro in a sport where not many people turn pro?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different ways to navigate it. And the first thing I'm going to say is technically we don't have a professional space. Okay. It's called like post-collegiate.
Just very, very good.
Yeah, you're just very, very good. Usually what we will say dignifies you as being a professional is a shoe contract pays you or a bigger company pays you to run throughout the year. So the shoe companies, you know, of course, Nike, Adidas, Puma, Asics, On, you know, Brooks, Under Armour, those are usually the companies that come in and say, hey, we're going to pay you to wear our kit and you're going to run at track meets. And when the Olympics comes, we get to represent, you're going to be our athlete. Now, we are contractors. We are not employees. I feel that's a very big thing that needs to be said as well, because there's a big difference. And if you know, I'm not going to jump into the details of that. But that is usually how it goes. So when I was in high school, I was running times. I was breaking the high school records. I was, basically running faster than any high school at that time was running. Now my records are pretty much gone because there have been faster kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but me and my brother were the first male sprinters to go professional out of high school in the U.S. And we met up with an agent, who's my agent now, Mark Whitmore, and it was me, my brother, and my mom, and we said, hey, this is what we want. Can we get a market value? And that's basically when the agent goes out and he asks companies, hey, if you were to sign this athlete, how much would you sign them for? And he came back, and there were a few companies that said some stuff. Nike was like, yeah, we want to see how their talent develops. We're like, okay. I think A6 was interested in me, but not my brother. And then Adidas was interested in both of us. And we wanted to turn pro together.
Easy choice.
So, yeah, we said, okay, we'll listen to the offer that Adidas has to come with. They came with a really good offer. And we're like, we're taking this. Yeah. We had already signed our a letter of intent to college. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, hey, we're not coming.
What?
Because you can't go. Well, you cannot compete as a collegiate athlete if you are receiving money. This was before NILs came and all that. So, if you sign a contract that says that they are going to be marketing you and giving you money for actually running, you cannot compete collegially.
Did it feel like a risk when you made that decision?
Not for me. I hate school.
Yeah.
I'm not a traditional learner.
Yeah.
With at all. But I love to learn, but no.
The teachers must have loved you because you were so fast.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Again, not being a traditional learner, I have ADD, I have dyslexia. If I have a love for the interest, I'm going to pour a lot into that, whatever it is. And that goes for school as well. But when I don't, I'm not going to care as much. I had this rule. It was the 80-20 rule. So say if you have 10 classes, if you are a good student in 8 of those, the 2 teachers who think you're a bad student are going to get overruled because you got 8 people going against you.
Yeah, for sure. The Pareto distribution.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. So I want to move on to now the Netflix series.
Sprint.
I was telling you before, it's such a interesting look at the modern world of track and field. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, that wasn't the main thing that I was interested in when I was watching you. The thing that struck me the most, obviously it was very, very good, but the things that struck me the most was the relationship you had with your mum.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
How important is she to what you do?
She's been the reason that I've been able to start my journey. When we were just talking about, the poppies and how somebody grows taller and they try to cut it down, she was the one that blocked basically the knife from being able to cut me down. Because, again, turning professional out of high school is not the normal route. Going through college and then turning professional out of college, that's the normal route. And that's even how, my dad did it. And it's very easy to say, don't go that way, go this way, because both my parents were professional runners as well. And instead of saying that, she said, okay, I know I'm uncomfortable with the direction that you're planning to go, but I'm willing to evolve and change so that you and your brother can try this method. And if you're going to put your whole heart into it, then I'm going to put my whole heart into, helping you get to that level. And she basically did, and seeing that brought in a whole new perspective of what being a parent was to me, but also what, being an inspiration was, and how to form a team in the future, and how to be successful, how to come up with plans, how to, be able to pivot. Those were all things that I was able to learn for her. And I'm like, wow, I'm so much more prepared than I thought I would ever be when I got to each scenario. And that's kind of how our relationship has been. Now, we genetically are pretty much match for match, except I'm the male version and she's the female version. But we are very close just because of the life that we've lived and just how we've gone about handling our situations.
Where do you think you'd be without her?
Where would I be? I'd probably still be trying to convince the teachers that I'm not crazy. I probably would be depressed, dealing with whatever school life I had been forced to go down. Of course, I know that no matter what, God would have put somebody in my life to lead me down the path, but it might have not just happened as fast.
Mm-hmm. You're religious.
Yes, I am Christian. And I'm a true believer that, God has everything for me. And I feel that is I feel like a lot of people will move through life not knowing the purpose that they have for them. And because of that, they get lost or sidetracked very easily. Mm-hmm. Anytime I feel that I get sidetracked, I always feel like I have a purpose. And sometimes the purpose that I want and the purpose that God has are different. Mm-hmm. And I have to remember that, because when I go after mine, it doesn't go as well. When I go after his, it goes very well. And it's better than I can imagine. Yeah. So anytime I get into that sidetrack, I'm like, all right, got to get back on the lane.
Because I remember going to church as a kid all the time. And then I kind of stopped when I got into like high school. Mm-hmm. So like for someone out there who kind of like foo-foos religion, Christianity, what do you say to them?
You know what's crazy? This is actually the first time that I've been in a podcast where we talked about religion. But I'm going to give my quick religious story. I actually grew up in a cult.
No way.
Well, it wasn't. It was a cult. It just wasn't at the level of, okay, we're going to drink the Kool-Aid.
Wild.
But it was it was super strict. All the moms had to be, homeschooling their kids, and the father was the head of the household. Yeah. And, the church told you who you could date, who you couldn't date. If you got married, it had to be through us, that type of behavior. We left, and that's why we moved to North Carolina, because we were going to start another church, only to figure out they wanted to do the same thing, except they wanted to be the head instead of not the tail. Yeah. So we left that. But that kind of really messed up my view in church, and it definitely messed up my mom's view. So it took her a long time, and even now she still struggles to trust churches in general, but she never lost her faith in the religion. And I think having instilled that in us at a young age, it made it easier for me to go throughout my own journey, because I also lost everybody gets that idea of, is there really a God? And something that I love is when I was young, she said, God says when you lack faith, ask for a test, and he will provide the test. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask for the test. I think I was in ninth grade. I wanted to make the world youth team, and I got sick. I think, what did I get? It was something that was really contagious. It was the swine flu, H1N1. Yeah. I got H1N1, and I was sick as a dog. And it was a week and a half before the trials to go to World Youth. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to make it out there and run and compete and run fast, because I've been training for, 2 weeks now. There's no way this is going to happen. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask for a test. I know this is selfish of me, but I'm going to ask for the test. God, if you can provide me a way to make this team, I'm not going to doubt it anymore that this is your plan. I made the team. I was the youngest person to make the team. And I made the team as an alternate, but got to run and made it all the way to being ranked 9th in the world. I was like, yeah.
I'm sold.
I'm sold. This is the and a lot of people, think that, it has to be something, super, you have to, I don't know, be super into the church and super into the scriptures. It doesn't have to be that serious. It's a relationship between you and God. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be between somebody else. It doesn't have to be what somebody has told you. It's a relationship between you and God and what you guys make of that. And that's how I view it. Because I don't have time to go to church every weekend. I got to run.
So you were talking about your mum, obviously, and in the Netflix documentary, you see your mum a lot. Was there any male role models growing up?
Yes, there were. It's just me and my dad kind of lost touch. He actually was my first coach, though. And he also ran for Adidas. And so I remember going in his closet when we were younger and pulling out these vintage, tracksuits. And now they're being marketed as Adidas EQTs. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I literally have this back home in my dad's closet. Like, it's so funny how everything comes full circle.
Yeah.
But we kind of lost touch after, my parents got divorced and we moved up to Maryland/Virginia. Of course, we would go to see him during the summer, but what we ended up doing was making like World Junior teams and World Youth teams, and that was during the summer. So it took up that time that we would have been with him to go run. There was just, that kind of distance that kind of grew in there. But I still had a lot of male role models around me. And even to this day, I still have close touches with those people. There was always somebody who could feed life into me or to be able to teach as long as I was willing to listen.
Who do you look up to now?
Now, it's hard to say who do I look up to. I think I have a respect for a lot of people. I'm very open about saying I don't carry idols. I don't put people on pedestals. I don't believe I can't be anywhere that somebody else has been. Like we were just talking about Kanye and Travis. I can be that high. We talk about Messi. Like I was just in a debate with Adidas. Like what is he? His ninth. He won his second. FIFA World Cup.
Yeah,
and they were doing all this marketing. I'm just like, I got 6 world championship medals. Where's my marketing? Like that's like the mentality I have. It's like, okay, if I'm doing, posting about him, I would also like it in return. I feel that what I do is not going to be any less or any, less deserving of what somebody else has done, or I can't reach that level at the same time. But I'm gonna study somebody. If you're doing something well, and even if I believe that you're doing a lot of wrong, but you've done this one thing right, I'm like, I'm gonna study that.
This leads me so well into my next question. It's not a question. It's a quote I want to read to you, from you.
Oh, I like this.
So you say, I have extremely strong ambition to be the best at anything I touch. How do you have so much self-belief?
It didn't happen overnight. I'll tell you that. Again, if you've watched the series, and there's actually, there's Sprint, but if you haven't watched, well, it's probably hard for you guys because it's in the U.S., but Peacock, we did a docuseries with Peacock, and it goes through the whole 2023 season as well, but it's just me. And we go into talking about, my relationship through school, and, I was bullied through middle school by females, the worst type of bullies. And my trust in myself and my belief in myself was very low, especially hearing that, seeing a grade and having that grade reflect your intelligence, only to find out later in life that it really doesn't have that much of a pure showing of your intelligence and how your ability to learn. And when I've realized in the real world how strongly a tool my ADD was, and how gifted I was like, you know what? All that stuff that I learned in school, I'm not going to throw it all away, but some of it does not need to stay. And I'm constantly just, taking steps and pushing the boundaries forward because I refused to say I was going to be stuck here. I was going to be stuck in this. I'm just going to be a runner and a few people are going to know me. It's like, no, I want to not only get out of the sport, but I want the sport to also be pushed to new boundaries. And I don't see anybody else doing that. And to do something that somebody else hasn't done, you have to get uncomfortable and you have to do the unseen, the unheard of.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. That's one of those things where me and my mom have this debate of why do some people want to be great and why are some people content doing the job that they're doing that's at a lower level. And I have the belief that God just gave everybody a different purpose. Some people he's made to be leaders. Some people he's made to be visionaries. Some people he's put in people's lives to be a teacher at a lower level so that they can inspire the people who go on to be the presidents, the peacemakers, the revolutionaries. But we all have a purpose. I just believe that my purpose is to keep pushing the boundaries and finding new ways to create.
You were bullied in high school?
Oh, yeah. Let's just say the medication that I was taking for my ADD and asthma, it really yellowed my teeth. And that's an easy picking spot for kids in the days.
For sure.
Yeah, especially in the U.S. Like, if there's one, you got one little flaw, yeah, you're going to get picked on. It's just natural.
How did you deal with it?
To be honest, not as well as I wanted to. But, of course, I was a kid. And it was such a hard situation because it turned physical. That's when it was like something had to be done. Because I came back home with like scratch marks that I got from some of the girls on the bus. And, you know, as a male, you're told, you know, not to be physical with females and not to lay your hands on them. So, you know, here I am trying to uphold that standard. But in my own right, I'm getting attacked myself. Like, how do I handle that? And, you know, my mom saw the markings. And, you know, I came home crying one day, and she was just like, yeah, we're not handling this. This isn't happening. And, you know, she went to the school, and, you know, she talked to the principal, and, you know, they handled it with the girls. And, you know, a few months later, we moved to Virginia or to Maryland. So luckily I didn't have to deal with that. But it was still a traumatic event where I lost a lot of trust in not only people, but, you know, specifically females. And it made kind of like dating in the future pretty hard. Yeah, and it was something that I had to, you know, basically go to therapy for and deal with for a long time. I'd say probably about 4 years ago is when I truly understood the trauma that I was holding on to be able to get through it.
Obviously, I knew I was talking to you this week, so I did a lot of research on you.
Love it.
I obviously am going to and have talked a lot about the good stuff and like how everyone loves you.
Okay.
But obviously, I found you have some haters on Twitter.
Some? I got a lot. But go ahead.
So apparently, you're narcissistic.
Very.
Arrogant.
100%.
A jerk.
Yes.
Annoying.
That might be the one I might agree with the most.
Overconfident.
That's a problem.
Too sure of yourself. How do you deal with all of that knowing that you're not any of them? Maybe annoying.
A lot of therapy.
Yeah.
Now, I definitely say I can be very annoying at times.
Yes,
but
so can I.
Everybody can be annoying in their own way. But a lot of therapy. A lot of therapy. You know, my mom deals with clinical depression, and she saw those traits within, you know, me and my siblings. So what she did was she put us in therapy very early on, and she said, if you like this is something you can continue throughout your life. And I chose to continue it. So I actually have 3 therapists now. I've been dealing with a grief therapist as of late. Been having a lot of loss in my friends and family recently. So I've just didn't want something like that to continue to fester over time. So I took the step, you know, myself to say, yeah, I gotta tackle this before it becomes a problem. But even through life, again, there's just some things that I was like, I don't know how to handle, and I don't want to be stuck, you know, going backwards. I always want to try and be moving forward. And I also find it to be a huge advantage over my competition. When I step into a room, you know, I want to know that I'm the guy. And no matter what anybody else does, that I'm going to stay that guy. And me having that mindset and knowing it's a sure thing instead of, you know, fake it to make it. You know, maybe when I first started, I had to fake it to make it, but not anymore. And look where it's got me. You know, and when the times are getting hard, I need to know, you know, how to handle that. When I'm having a bad practice, because they do happen, it's bound to happen. You know, every day can't be perfect. I need to know how to handle those days. Like, who do I talk to? Who do I go to? What is the mindset that I had to start thinking instead of, oh, that was just such a bad day. Like, what is every day is like this? Like, gosh, this is just going to throw off the whole year. It's just like, no, calm down. It's one day. You know, if anything, this is a good day because my body's probably saying, hey, it's tired. Let me give it the rest it deserves, and I'm going to come back. And then next week I come and do the same workout, and it's 1,000 times better.
So on the Netflix series, and speaking to you for the last hour or so now, you're very open and in touch with your emotions.
Yeah.
In comparison to your competitors, they're just not. Why are you so open about it?
I don't want to say they're not, because unfortunately I don't know them enough to say that. I will say that they are not open to sharing. And I think I said that in the series when I was talking about Fred. I was just like, I'm a very open guy. He's not that open, you know. We're different. There's nothing bad. It's just how it is. And sports in general, because you can look at my career and all those things that you just lifted off, people sharing that I'm arrogant, that I'm full of myself, that I'm cocky, that I'm a narcissist. Not everybody can handle hearing those things. So it's much easier to be quiet and let people perceive you into their thoughts but not truly know, and just say he's a quiet guy. How are you going to, harp on a quiet guy? Mm-hmm. So it's a lot easier to be that guy instead of being somebody like me and being out and being available to letting everybody have their own opinions of who I am and be able to throw rocks and sticks and spears but still be able to take it. It's hard to be that guy.
Yeah. I always say, when you put yourself out there on social media, when you do all these things in the public eye, the cost of doing that is that there will be people who say stuff about you. Yeah. And that is just one of the costs that you have to accept to get the publicity, to get the people talking about you.
Yeah, very early on when I was in high school, my mom would say, the higher you go in the social ladder, the more your underwear shows. And she's so right. It doesn't matter how high you go, but the higher you go for sure, the more people are going to have opinions and the more people are going to say them. Yeah. Because at that point, there's a certain sphere where they don't see you as normal people of society anymore.
Yeah.
They just see you as up here and they're down here, and they're going to say whatever they want.
Yeah, you're Noah the 100-meter runner, not
Noah the human being.
Exactly.
That's your neighbor.
So what I found really interesting in the series as well is how close the competitors are.
Oh, yeah.
But also, like, how happy you are for each other. Like, so, like, there was a GB athlete who got a...
Zarnell Hughes.
Yeah, you were spurring him on to, like, get his record time.
Yeah.
And you were so happy for him when he did. And I just thought that was so bizarre in terms of, like, there's not really another sport where you want to see that happen for your competitor. Yeah. Is it actually like that, or was the series kind of making it look
there's
like
a
that?
mix. There's a mix for sure. I'd say that my outreach in that moment was very genuine. We were, it was a year ago. We were at the London Diamond League. I think this is episode 4 or 5.
Yeah,
it had to be 4. And we were at the press conference, and they were asking Zarnell, oh, do you think you already have the European record or the British record in, I think it's both actually, in the 100, are you going to get in the 200? And it's like, well, I don't know. We'll just have to see what the day brings. And, sometimes that's warranted because a time like that can be very fast. Me being ignorant to what the record was, I'm like, wait, what's the record? Like, I'm thinking, because it's, I have a pretty big knowledge of most records. I'm just like, wait, what is this record? And they're like, oh, it's like 19.9. And I'm like, man, you just ran 1983. That time just put you into like the top 15 fastest times ever through history. Yeah. And he's naturally a 200-meter runner rather than a 100-meter runner. I'm like, man, you'll get that time. Don't sell yourself short. Like, sometimes you have to be confident. And I was like, that's one of those times you need to be confident in yourself. You don't sell yourself short. And, the next day, or he gets the record. And then he goes on to get the bronze medal at the World Championships. And I was like, there's been too many times where I've been seeing you doubt yourself. Yeah, you need to stop that. You're too good to doubt yourself. And that's something that I dislike sometimes. And I even watched Point Break, the tennis box-to-box series. And they were at the U.S. Open. And these U.S. guys, they were just like, well, I hope this year is my year. It's looking kind of good. It's like, if you want this to be your year, then take it. It's not going to be given to you. Mm-hmm. There's no, oh, woe is me. This is my year. Go and get it.
You said if you don't have main character energy, then track and field isn't for you.
It's really not. Because it's individual. It's so individual. And not only that, you're shoulder to shoulder with the person next to you, fingertip to fingertip. Like you said, you're in the call room. One of the most, I think, nerve-wracking moments that you can have in track and field is being at an Olympic championship or a world championship, and you're the 100 meters. It's the last race. So that means that everybody is no longer on the warm-up area. That moment we saw with Sha'Carri. She was doing blocks like right next to her competitors that just beat her in the semifinals. You only have an hour and a half in between the semifinals and the finals. You have to be so within yourself and compose yourself to be able to get ready for that next battle. And this is going to be the biggest battle of your life. So when you warm up with them, you hear the roars from the stadium of the races that are going on. You're, getting ready. You can literally look your competitor in the eye. You probably shared blocks. That's not an easy moment to have. And if you can't get over that and then go into the car room, sitting right next to each other, and then walk out into that stadium with 80,000 people, I'm sorry, this is not for you.
This leads me on perfectly. So from obviously exactly what you've just said, your brother is also in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole family, your mum was also in the sport.
Yeah.
You were born to be a sprinter, right?
I was born to be a 400-meter runner, but yes, a sprinter for sure.
Have you ever, on your journey to becoming where you are now, ever doubted it?
I wouldn't say I doubted it. I would say that I did a lot of different events. So at first I wanted to be a high jumper. I stopped growing after a while and said, 5'10" is where I'm staying at. Remember when you were looking up how tall you have to be a tennis player? Well, if you want to be a good high jumper, you need to be at least 6'1". Yeah, I stopped at 5'10". So I'm like, I think I'm going to let go of this one.
Is that funny looking back now that you wanted to be high jumper?
It is kind of funny, but I still loved it. It still kind of instilled within me a lot of things that I bring on now, especially when it came to confidence. Some of my hardest training moments came from training for high jump. So I brought a lot of that with me. But there were definitely times where it was hard. I wouldn't say where I doubted that I wanted to do this anymore, but there was definitely times when I had doubt within myself.
I find that crazy, like from the moment you were born, literally.
Oh, no, I did a lot of different sports.
What did you do before?
I've done, soccer, basketball. We did baseball, gymnastics. Oh, I love gymnastics. I loved gymnastics.
I can see you being a gymnast.
Yeah. And then swimming, So track and field was the last sport that I ended up with.
That's crazy. Well, I suppose it's in business. Like it's you try loads of things before you finally hit the one that feels right.
Yeah, my parents did not want to force us into track. And if I have kids, I'm not going to force them into track.
Yeah.
They're going to have to tell me we want to do track. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, you can go try it.
So what would you be if you weren't a sprinter?
Truthfully, now, knowing the skills that I have now and looking at all the sports, I think I would have needed to go into soccer.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The more I look at it, I'm just like, I think I have a soccer body.
Yeah?
I have the speed. I have the coordination, my ability to think, many plays out, being able to map out scenarios and, being very vocal. If I was put in a culture where soccer or, football was very popular, I feel that I would be very good.
Who's your team in the UK?
Well, so again, I was telling you that Comcast is one of my sponsors and they own NBC. So they brought me out to Universal Studios one day to pick a team during the Premier League kickoffs. And Manchester United is apparently my team now.
We can always change. We can always change it.
Maybe. I mean, it'd have to take a lot of convincing just because, once I settle on something, unless I really, really start getting into, football and start being like, okay, yeah, this is my team, I'm probably going to stick with it.
You've talked about a lot of like foot-eye coordination, like sprinting, running, soccer, football. What about hand-eye coordination? Baseball, cricket, tennis, paddle, pickle?
I feel I could be very good at tennis.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel I could be extremely good at tennis. I have the speed. I have the strength. I'm very agile. Of course I could, go into American football, but I'm not that aggressive.
Yeah.
I am aggressive, but not to the point where I want to think about, smashing into people and being like, sometimes you just got to run over a guy's face over and over and over again. Yeah, no.
I couldn't think of anything worse than playing that sport, but also having to have that persona of wanting to hurt people constantly.
Yeah, it's a very weird persona because a lot of the times you figure out that NFL players, collegiate football players, they're really nice guys.
Yeah.
Really nice guys. So it's so weird when it's like it's just a switch. Just how like we have a switch when we get on the track, they have a switch when they get on the field. So
obviously you're a world champion sprinter.
Yeah.
But a lot of people also don't know that you are a world-class marketer as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wanted to list all the things that you've done, and then I started listing them out, and I was like, we are going to be here for hours. So I've chosen my top ones.
Okay, I love it.
So you've collaborated with Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
You have a YouTube channel which you regularly post on.
Yeah.
Which I find
I have help for that.
Very admirable, though.
I do have help for that. But yes, we work daily. In fact, before we came out here, we had a meeting, probably an hour and a half long meeting about every day we're going to post, what we're going to post, when we're going to post it, especially retaining to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. You were on Jimmy Fallon.
Yep. That was fun.
I bet. You're definitely provocative in your opinions on social media.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to phrase it, but yeah, I'll take that.
You posted, an example of this is you posted on your Instagram story predicting you were going to run record times before the event.
Oh, yeah.
You've pointed at the camera as you're crossing the finish line.
And my competitors.
Yeah. And probably my favorite one when I saw it come out is you've shown rare Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah, that went way better than I thought.
Before taking your start position.
Yeah, that went way better than I thought it was because it was a dare.
Genius.
It was actually a dare. I was doing a podcast with Chase Ely, 2-time world champion in the shot put, and we're both anime fans, and she was like, "Oh, you got to pull out Exodia." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you got to pull out Exodia before you run." It's like, if I figure out a way to pull out Exodia, then you have to do the Rock Lee weight drop. And she did. And so that means I had to. So I always honor my, my bets and my dares.
You did it a few times though, right?
I did it almost every time at Champs. So
you kind of got
I did it all throughout the US world. I did it through all the hundreds. And then I did it through one of the 200s, but I ended up buying a dual disc while out there in Eugene, and then walking in with the dual disc. And when I say I have tried many different outfits and outreach to many different fashion, social media pages, the dual disc is the thing that got them.
For everyone who doesn't know what a dual disc is,
yeah, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh toy basically, and essentially you play the game on your arm, and it looks kind of like a scythe on your arm, and you place the cards, and it counts up your life points and all this, and damage, and hold your deck and all that stuff.
It's like a weapon.
Yeah, it looks like a weapon. It does.
So where do these disruptive ideas, like this drive, the creativity, and like more importantly, obsession, to not only get yourself in the limelight, but the sport of track and field?
I think it's just me. I like this stuff, so I want to do these things. I have played Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm more of a Magic the Gathering type guy, but I have played Yu-Gi-Oh. But that's just childhood. Like, everybody can relate to that. And when I was deciding, which cards to choose, because I also brought out the Blue Eyes White Dragon because I wanted to start with something that everybody knew. And it's like, oh, first you get the Yu-Gi-Oh fans, then you get the super fans, and it's like, oh, you're really into this. Like, I had Konami reach out to me talking about, partnering up and doing stuff. I'm just like, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. But even though it's like, where do I find different cultures that I know would be interested in this if they had somebody to root for? Mm-hmm. And I feel I bridge a lot of gaps when it comes to music, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to being quirky. I'm a geek. I explain like nerds and geeks are different. Nerds are more intelligent. I feel geeks are kind of just more obsessed on a specific cultural thing. So I'm a geek, and when it comes to like anime, pop culture, Marvel, DC, superheroes, Legos, like I have an interest in almost everything out there. And I want to be that guy for the people who are just like, yeah, I don't really have a reason. I'm your reason. And I win. So it helps.
Have you got anything planned for the Diamond League for the Olympics?
I am still working on the Olympics. It's very hard. Copyrights. Goodness gracious. Oh, that's where most of my biggest ideas get shut down at.
Well, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, hey?
I do, but they will take your medal at the Olympic level.
And your money in court.
Yeah, at Diamond Leagues is way easier. You know, I can get away with a lot more.
Yeah,
at the Olympics. Yeah. Don't mess around with the Olympic Committee. They will come for everything.
I wanted to do this with you because I thought as soon as I saw it in the documentary, I was like, I have to bring this up to him.
Okay.
So you're fast. Yes. I'm not.
Okay.
You're American. I'm English.
Yeah.
You call it soccer. I call it football.
Okay. I think I know where this is going.
You say vacation. I say holiday.
Really?
You
know what? You're right. Yeah.
You're in sports. I'm in fashion. So there's a many differences between us. But we do have one thing in common.
Okay.
We both have asthma. So when I was growing up, I obviously, as every young person wants to be, a professional sports person. I wanted to be a footballer. And when I got laughed out of that for being not very good, I wanted to be professional tennis, cricket. And I always use like having asthma as like an excuse. It's like, oh, I can't do this because of asthma. I even applied for the Royal Navy, and in the application, it was like, if you have asthma, you won't get through to the next stage. So I always saw it as like a barrier. So how has the literal fastest man in the world got asthma, and how do you deal with it?
It's funny because when I first started running, this used to be a very big conversation, then it died out, and it's been coming back up again. But essentially, you know, you get diagnosed, I think, at like 3 years old is when they officially diagnose you with asthma. And it was truly just, you know, breathing machines, hospital visits, late nights up with my mom, going through coughing fits. And, you know, of course, if you get sick and you have asthma, they merge together and you get a super sickness. So there was a point in my life where I just thought this was going to be forever. You know, I was just going to deal with this as an adult. I was going to deal with it as a teen. I'll grow old. Shoot, am I going to grow old? You know, thinking as a kid, you know, it's like, you never know what can come about.
Because for people without asthma, like, especially when you're so young, it is genuinely terrifying when you're having an asthma attack and you physically can't breathe, but you don't know why, and you're using your inhaler and it's not working.
It's not working. Yeah. I always explain, if you want to know how somebody with asthma breathes, try breathing through a straw for about 20 breaths, and you'll get the effect of what it's like for us. And it can happen at any moment. So it was very stressful. But, you know, I ended up getting my tonsils removed and my adenoids removed. You know, I remember when Advair came out, and that was kind of the medication that finally worked for me.
Okay.
And going through that whole timeline, you know, my mom would constantly say to me, this is not how your life is going to be forever. This is just a phase in your life. Life is ups and downs, and right now you're just in a down. But it's gonna go up. And at the time, I couldn't fathom that. Yeah. You know, I'm 5 years old. How am I gonna, you know, fathom that concept of life is bigger than just the 1 year?
Yeah, days feel like years when you're that age.
And as I grew older and I look back at those moments, it's like, wow, I learned that lesson so early that life now feels like I can handle anything. And when I started getting better, you know, you just feel that hope. And even before that, I had to start believing that. And that's where faith comes. You know, the faith is the belief that something is there with no proof. And I believe that's one of my strongest, you know, mental weapons. I believe in things are going to happen, even though I have no proof. Now, I will create moments that will start to build that proof. But, you know, as a 6-year-old, I had to believe I'm not going to be in this situation forever.
In contrast to what you've just said, though, it feels like, and I was going to leave this till the end because you keep on bringing up such good stuff, but like the cult that you grew up in, the bullying in high school, the asthma, like you said, like faith is believing something when it's not there. But like it feels like you have overcome all these issues that you've come face to face with. So like you've got undeniable stack of proof that you can do this stuff.
Yeah, but sometimes that's a hard concept to be able to see. Mm-hmm. Like I said, not everybody can look at their life and they can look at everything that I've gone through and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for everything you've gone through. And I'm just like, what did I go through? Mm-hmm. Like each time that I conquered something, I felt like I grew, I got stronger, and I continually grew from it. So when I look back at that and people just like, the question I hate to get is like, oh, what would you do if you could go back in time and change something in your life? I would not change a thing because I wouldn't have learned it. I wouldn't have gone through it. And I truthfully believe that everything that I went through in my past sets me up for my future.
Mm-hmm. Like your uncomfortability made you who you are today.
Being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
So, being the fastest man in the world, it's a very cool thing to say.
It
must be even cooler to be at the other end of it.
Yeah, it's well, the track and field world is very weird. It's easy to say to people who are not in the track world, but because there's a world championships every 2 years, and because there's an Olympics every 4 years, and because there's a world record, the debate of who the true fastest man in the world is very arguable. Mm-hmm. Because you'll have people be like, oh, it belongs to the person who has the world record. And some people will say it belongs to the person who has the Olympics championships. And somebody will say, no, it's the current world champion. So apparently there's like 7 of us walking around the earth right now.
So are you faster than Usain Bolt?
Not currently. Not currently. In the 200, I'm the 3rd fastest man ever to live. I do feel I have great pride in saying that too. As you look through all history, and you're just like, wait, since the earth started, I am the 3rd fastest man ever to live.
Have you ever? Because I always used to think this, especially watching because obviously the London Olympics was in 2012. So like it was a massive thing when we were younger, and I've grown up always very, very curious. And this is a question that I couldn't wait to ask you. Okay. So like, have you ever broken the record in training and you've been like, oh my God, I've broken it, but it's not been recorded?
No, it's very hard to do that because we're using hand times.
Yeah.
And hand times are not accurate, and even if I did break it in practice, it's like, well, actually, no. I have recorded a 9.5 in practice. So in 2012, I had this practice that I was doing right before the 200, and it was an unorthodox 100. So I started at the 150 mark. For people who know track, they know where that is. And I ended at the 50-meter mark. So I was basically running half a turn and half a straight. And when I came through, my coach shows me the hand time, and it's 9.5. And I'm like, goodness gracious, I'm going to break the world record.
How old were you then?
It was my birthday during that championship too. I turned 24.
Oh, wow.
Or 25? 24. I think I turned 24.
So you said you expected to win gold at Tokyo Olympics in 2020. Yeah. How did it feel when you finished in 3rd place?
Oh, I hated it.
And you had to take home bronze?
It was rough. It was really rough. Because now this is one of the moments where people just see me as cocky. But for the last 3 years, I had been running times that nobody could touch. Like my PRs were in my races that I've been running on normal were so fast that, I'm gapping people every race. And then COVID comes around and I get depressed and I'm dealing with anxiety. And now I'm running times that are a lot closer to everybody else. And although I ran a fast time, everybody else PR'd that day. And it was faster than what I ran. And knowing that even though they PR'd, my PR was still leagues ahead of theirs, it was so frustrating. It was just like, this is literally the worst. I'm literally I'm down. I'm in a valley. And I'm trying to get out of it, but I couldn't get out of it fast enough. And it was just something I had to live with and I had to deal with. But I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, because the very next year I break the American record. The next year after that, I win 3 gold medals at World Championships. And now I'm going into the Olympics, not only in the 200, but also in the 100 as, you know, a potential heavy favorite. Like, my life has completely flipped to where in 2021, it was like my worst year. And now in 2024, I'm going into my best year.
So you think that kind of like realization of you not winning the Olympics as you thought was like the Kickstarter to the Olympics coming up?
100%. It was definitely the fire that ignited the chain of events that has unfolded over the last 3 years. And I actually am carrying around that bronze medal during the whole Olympics just to remind me where I came from and what I'm not about to bring home.
You were very close to going to the Olympics before 2020 as well?
In 2016, I got 4th. You have to come top 3 to make it in the 200, and I got 4th as a high schooler.
And you would have been the youngest, or one of the youngest ever?
I would have been one of the youngest. Sydney McLaughlin at the time had made the team, and she ended up being the youngest. And then later on, you know, the next 2021, Ariane Knighton won, and he was like 17, I think. And so everybody was getting younger and younger.
So, as we all know, you like predicting the future with your Instagram stories.
Oh, I love it.
What are you predicting for the Olympics in 2024?
I'll just say this. In practice 2 weeks ago, I asked my coach, what do I have to run to prove that I am in shape to break the world record in the 200? And he said, well, you'd have to run this time. I'm like, all right, bet. I did the practice, and I ran the time. So I'm not going to say that the world record will fall, but it is in danger in the 200 meters. So I expect a PR in the 200, running at least 19:20, and in the best situation, running a 19:1 in the 200.
And who currently holds the record for the 200?
Usain Bolt, the one and only.
So you think you'll break Usain's record?
That's what I'm saying.
That's amazing. So there's a scene in the Netflix docuseries where you've won, you came first, you're getting your medal, the American flag's going up.
Yeah. I know this is good.
The national anthem's coming on. And you just break down full of emotion.
Yeah, that was rough. It was going so well in my head. I've had the national anthem go up for me many times. And I'm just seeing the flag go up and they start playing it. Dun, 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 dun. You're singing it in your head. And it's like, that's a really nice flag. My vision's it's kind of blurry. I can't see anymore. Okay, there's one tear. Oh, there's a second. Oh, it's all over. I can't stand anymore. And if Zarnell didn't come up and hold me up, I truly would have fell to my knees. And I've never had a situation where I felt like I've wanted to cry, hearing the national anthem. But it was just such a moment that I dreamed about, because everybody's seen me as, the 200-meter runner for so long. And I've proven myself multiple times that I was also a 100-meter runner, but they don't believe it until, you get to the World Championship stage and prove yourself. And here I am saying all year, I'm going to win the double. And everybody's like, no, you're a 200-meter runner. You can't win the double. And like they said in the series, in sprint, nobody wants the 200-meter guy to come down and take the 100. And yet here I am saying that I'm going to do it. So when I proved it, and I've known I was the fastest man in the world, and here I have the medal to say, this is it. This belongs to me now. It's like, wow, all that pressure I was holding on to, all the walls I had to keep up, it just came down. And I finally was able to let it go because I achieved what I wanted.
What was that transition down like from 200 to 100 meters? Because for anyone just looking at sprints, it's just like, it's just half the distance. It should be quicker for
you. Just run.
Should be easier for them.
Yeah, I'd say the 100 meters is the most patient race you'll probably ever run, because everybody just wants to try and get the top speed as fast as possible. If you do that, you're not going to make it to the finish line. there are many examples. There was a runner in that race where he got out so hard and he looked like he was going to win. You know, he gets to the 60 meters leagues before everybody else. And then all of a sudden we just start reeling him in. And he didn't even get a medal, which is crazy because he holds the record in the 60 meters. This is Christian Coleman. He holds the world record in the 60-meter dash. But there's 100 meters, and you have to be patient or you're going to run out of energy. And I had to learn that, one. I also had to learn how to reach my top-end speed a lot faster. Mm-hmm. So this year and the last year, I started running more 60s because I was like, I have to be more aggressive. I have to get into the race. I cannot be so far out of the race that I'm not even in position to use my ability. And last year I improved it, not by as much as I did this year, which is the most exciting part. But every year I say, okay, I know my weakness. I need to strengthen my weakness. Mm-hmm. And that has been the biggest shift. That, again, being that comfortable with the uncomfortable, I have really thrown myself into the den of wolves trying to, go after these 100-meter times and medals.
So I think this is a great, I love this question and it fits you so perfectly because obviously you're an Olympian. Mm-hmm. But this phrase is used for everyone who's looking to achieve something. So I think it's a great place to finish on. Are you scared of gold medal syndrome?
Oh, no. I have dealt with it, though. I'm assuming you're referring to the high that you get to when you grab the gold medal and then everything just kind of going away after.
So for everyone who doesn't know, you work towards this goal for so long. It's all you ever want. It is the pinnacle of what you can achieve. Mm-hmm. And then you achieve it. A lot of people get it in their normal lives through marriage, when mm-hmm. they have their wedding. They've been planning for this long and the wedding comes and then after it, it's finished. A career, a job that they wanted. But obviously it fits you perfectly because it comes from the sport. So after you achieve that gold medal, mm-hmm. what's next for you? Are you scared of achieving it because of that?
No, I have gotten it though. In 2019, I won my first world championships, and I think it was the start of me going into depression. But when I grabbed the medal, it wasn't that aha moment that I thought it was going to be. And it took me, again, a lot of years in therapy, probably about 2 years in therapy, to figure out why that was. And it was because I had forgotten why I wanted it. The reason that I wanted it is because my goals demand that I have it to get to where I want to get to. These medals are stepping stones. I want to show my artistic side. I want to show the drive that I have outside of track and field. And it helps to have the medals so that people, one, see the respect that you have and then see the notoriety and say, we want to partner with this person. That's the reason that I want the medals. It's not and of course I want to show that I'm the greatest, but my life is not consumed by track and field. And I now know that. And because I know that, when I do get that medal, it's like, oh, this was just the start to getting to where I actually wanted to be. And even when I'm done with the Olympics and done running, I know who I am outside of track. I'm a creator. I'm an inventor. I'm an inspiration. I am somebody who always wants to keep pushing no matter what I do. So when I do leave track behind, I'm not saying, oh, do I miss it? It's like, that was a fun part of my life. I'm very excited for the next part of my life. And that thinking is what keeps me moving even after I have the medal.
Who do you want to be an inspiration to?
I want to be an inspiration to me. When the kids that are going through what I had to go through, the ones that see that there is no path. When I was growing up, I felt there was only one direction that you could go in, and I hated it. I hated that I was told that you have to stand in this box and you have to stand in, and you have to go this way. But now I feel like I've traversed a mountain that nobody's ever climbed. And I turn around and I see people now taking that same path up. And while I don't condone taking my path, I took it so that you can find a better one. And that you know that it can be done. So no matter what path you decide to go on, you know that you don't have to be the first.
That's amazing. So you might have noticed the tip jar.
I did.
So at the end of every episode, the podcast is obviously called Everybody Wants to Be Us. I told you at the beginning, like sometimes I watch movies and watch podcasts and listen to books and I'm like, damn, I want to be that person.
Yeah.
So what I would like to ask you to do is I've got a piece of paper and a pen here. And I want you to write down a tip for someone who wants to be like you. And
this is an easy one.
Just pop it into the jar and then we're going to do something with them in later episodes with the listeners.
Right. Should I say what I'm going to write?
No.
Okay.
But
I'm fine with that too. I'm excited now. I'm more excited to see the episode that comes from this.
Yeah. But Noah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been a blast. I always love talking with people who are outside of the space because I like to see people's different opinions. I want to see what drives them. It always makes me more excited to go see the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.